All right, today we are digging into a really fascinating question in early childhood education. How in the world do we know what our youngest learners actually know? Let's get into it.
So seriously, think about it for a second. How do you measure learning in a 4-year-old? Do you sit them down for a formal test, ask them to fill in bubbles on a sheet? Well, it turns out the answer might be a whole lot simpler and honestly much more insightful than you'd think.
You see, it all starts with just looking closer. Not with some standardized test, but with a trained, observant eye, one that can see learning as it's happening, in the real world of a kid.
Now, to really get why this is such a big deal, we first have to understand the kind of pressure cooker environment that a lot of these early childhood programs are in. It's something people call the accountability squeeze.
So basically, everyone from policymakers to the people funding these programs wants to see data. They're looking for hard statistical proof that the money being spent is actually making a difference. And on the surface, that makes perfect sense, right? We all want high-quality programs.
This pressure for accountability actually led to something pretty positive, the creation of early learning guidelines. Every single state has them, and they basically lay out reasonable, age-appropriate expectations based on what we know about child development. This is great because it helps make sure we're not trying to push kindergarten-level work onto 3- and 4-year-olds.
A really great way to think about these guidelines is like blueprints. Just like an architect needs a blueprint to build a house, an educator needs one to guide what they're teaching. It sets the goals for what kids should know and be able to do.
But, and this is a big but, here's where those good intentions can kind of go sideways. The problem isn't the blueprint itself, but how teachers are being asked to prove they're following it.
And let's be super clear here. The guidelines themselves are not the enemy. The problem is the implementation. A lot of teachers feel this immense pressure to prove that children are meeting these standards, and that pressure often pushes them toward one single, really flawed solution: testing.
And this creates a huge conflict. On one side, you have what we know is a developmentally appropriate classroom. It's full of play, exploration, and discovery. But on the other side, you get a classroom that's just teaching to the test. Suddenly, teacher-led activities take over everything, there's no room for spontaneity, and that absolutely vital time for play gets shoved aside for little mini-tests.
Okay, but there is a better way. There's a way to meet those accountability demands while still doing what's best for kids. And it's a tool that every single teacher already possesses: careful, focused observation.
And listen, this isn't just about randomly watching kids play. Focused observation is a real professional practice. It's systematic, it's intentional. The whole goal is to watch children to truly understand where they are in their development and then use that understanding to plan what to do next. So a really systematic observation has 5 key parts. 1, it's ongoing, just happening during normal, everyday routines. 2, it's criterion-based, which just means you know what skills you're looking for. 3, it has to be documented right away. 4, it needs to be objective and factual, what you see, not what you think. And number 5, the most important part, it's used to actually improve teaching and help the child move forward.
But does this really work? Can you actually gather hard data just by watching? Well, let's look at a real-life case study of a 4-year-old boy named Angel. All the data we're about to see comes from something as simple as snack time.
So here's what the teacher saw. Angel saves a chair for his friend Luis. He counts his crackers out loud. 1, 2, 3. He politely asks for more juice. Then he tells a little story about the loud goats on his farm. It sounds like a simple, sweet little moment, right? But to a trained observer, there is so much more going on here. So let's break this down. Let's really look at what skills and knowledge Angel demonstrated in that tiny slice of his day. This is where simple observation turns into powerful data.
So check this out. In that one little interaction, Angel showed skills across a ton of different learning domains. For literacy, he was listening and having a conversation. For numeracy, he was using numbers and counting. He showed fine motor skills, social skills, he even expressed things about his culture. And as for his approach to learning, you could see him developing independence. It's all there.
Think about that for a second. In one simple snack time, the teacher gathered real, reliable data on 5 different learning domains, and there wasn't a test in sight. And within those 5 domains, she documented 7 specific concrete skills, all of that just from being present, watching, and taking a quick note. It's incredible. This is what true assessment in early childhood is supposed to look like. It's not about pulling a skill out of context for some artificial test. It's about seeing the whole child, in their world, as they really are.
So why does this matter so much? Well, for one, observation honors play as the real work of childhood. It gives teachers a way more accurate picture of a child's abilities than a one-off test ever could. It empowers them to plan better, and it actually satisfies that need for accountability in a way that helps, not hurts, a child's learning journey. At the end of the day, it's really the difference between a single, flat snapshot you might get from a test and the rich, detailed, evolving story you get from genuine observation.
Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. If we could see this much learning happening during a single snack time, just imagine what else we might be missing when we're not truly looking.